Hello everyone, welcome to our Alibaba Cloud Apsara Clouder online course. Today we are going to talk about the cloud platform security overview. This is our index today. We are going to talk about the brief history of IT infrastructure at the very beginning. Then we will go through some cybersecurity situations we are facing now if you are running any online business on the internet. Although internet brings us a very convenient communication way, but it also had a lot of vulnerabilities, dangers we need to take care of. Also, I will talk about the security risk evaluation and shared responsibility methods, which means running your business in cloud, the cloud provider, we will have our responsibility to protect your physical infrastructures, but at the same time, you need to plan very well about how you set up and configure your software environment and make sure there's no such vulnerabilities can be leveraged by the bad guys. And the fourth one will be the security focus on different infrastructure model, which means I'm going to go through some simple, very well used infrastructure type in the Alibaba Cloud, so you can have an understanding about why we need a cloud infrastructure and how we can combine the different Alibaba Cloud products to make the most suitable infrastructure for yourself. And based on that, we will give you some suggestions about what kind of focus, especially the security focus, you need to pay attention to with the different infrastructure choice. At the very ending of this course, you will have a chance to look into the most of the major and key security products in Alibaba Cloud. So you will understand what kind of products and what they are focusing on. So you can make your best choice to build up your security plan and solution in Alibaba Cloud. Okay, we are going to talk about the brief history of the IT infrastructure involving. So from this involving timeline, you can see in the kind of 1960s, at that time, market domination is, we call them the mainframe. Mainframe is a kind of very powerful but very isolated kind of device. At that time, those devices can only be used or be owned by some very rich company like the IBM or some other bank. They use this kind of mainframe device to do the major financial transaction or some other kind of very heavy load computing. The problem of the mainframe is that it's very isolated devices, and it can only be controlled by some very big companies. It's not be able to share, and it's also very expensive. Then with the development of the x86 kind of CPU and the company like Intel and AMD, they began to provide more and more cheaper chips, and use these chips to build some computer like the personal computer and even some small servers. So from that time, computing capability was kind of distributed to the individuals. So every individual can have their own personal computer, and many companies began to buy some servers to build up their own lab. So at that time, the trend became to happening like you can have your own computing capability. So every company, no matter it's a small company or big company, they have the capability to build their own centralized small lab, or we call them a little bit data center. So you can see it is a trend that the IT infrastructure is becoming more and more lightning and more cheap. Then the IT industry become a little bit booming, right? In the 1990s, many big companies, there's more and more big companies, they began to set up their own data center, because data center is not like the mainframe, right? They build their data center using those small servers and for different purpose. And that also at the same time, some other IT infrastructure provider like Dell, EMC, they began to provide their own storage product. And like Cisco or some other networking company, they began to provide the dedicated networks devices. So that was really a golden time for the IT infrastructure and the market. So the company had many choices to buy the different part of their IT infrastructure and combine them together and put them into their own data center and provide the computing and storage capability to the whole company. This model works very well in the 1990s and even at the very beginning of the 21st century. But it's still a little bit expensive, and the problem is it's not so extendable, right? It's so physical constrained, and you have to build your own facility. You have to maintain the temperature, like the humidity, those kind of physical situations. Then cloud began to jump in, right? I remember the cloud concept was kind of provided by IBM, right? At the very beginning, IBM had a concept like we should have computing like a water service or electronic service, right? Not everyone should own this kind of capability. We should have the central hub providing this kind of service, so everyone, when they want it, they can use it. If they don't want it, they just stop using. So it's a very convenient service. That's why now the cloud computing business is so popular, and it looks like a more and more dominant IT infrastructure choice across the world. Again, talking about the traditional data center and the cloud computing infrastructure, definitely the cloud computing has many advantages. Firstly, in a company, you don't need to maintain your own physical facility, right? You don't need to find some area to buy some space and put your rack into it. And I said, you don't need to worry about power of your servers, worry about the cooling system, and the money you spend every day for the electronic expense. And also, if you run your own data center, usually you need to consider about the backup plan and the disaster recovery plan, right? You may not only put one site at one place. You may need to think, maybe I need another fully duplicate site in another city or some even other country, so that when some disaster happening, I can have my data really being restored. So cloud computing really solves those kind of financial and physical complex difficulties, because you don't need to own your own IDC, right? You only rent or buy some computing, storage, all those kind of services like AI, big data analysis, those kind of capabilities. When you need it, you just spend money and bet and use it. When the business is done, right, you can just release those resources and you don't need to pay it anymore. And all the operation and management work, you just give it to the cloud provider. You only need to worry about your own business. So this is a big advantage about cloud computing. This page gives you a brief overview about, usually when we're talking about cloud computing, we are talking about the three kinds of cloud service. Again, at the very bottom, you can see we have the physical resource pool to build the whole infrastructure about cloud service. Then on the top of the bottom layer, we have some hypervisor layer. We build up our virtual resource pool, which means for the upper level users, they will never see the real physical devices. What they see is some resource pool, like the networking pool, like the storage pool, like the virtual servers pool. Those will be something really virtual, but easy to generate, create, or even very easy to release. And based on those virtual pool, we began to provide three kinds of cloud service. The first one, we call it IaaS, the infrastructure as a service. It's the major three abstracted cloud service like computing, storage, network. And based on that, we provide the platform as a service. When we talk about the platform as a service, we usually regarding to kind of a combined or packaged service, like we can provide a kind of developing environment, right? With those kind of platform, You don't need to worry about how can I talk to the storage, how can I talk to the network. You only need to about what kind of API I have to use these resources. I don't need to schedule them. I don't need to consider how this resource will work together. What I only need is about my own business model. And at the top level, we call it the software as a service, which means now to the really end users, like the mobile phone users, like the top users, when they open their laptop on the mobile, what they say is only some portals, applications they can use, right? They have no sense about any existing infrastructure like the cloud or something. They only focus on their business convenience, only focus on their easy to use features. So those is a service that the SaaS can provide to the end user. In the cloud platform context, when we talk about the architect, it's a very big concept, but today I want to only introduce four common platform architect. The first one, we call it all-in-one architect, which means this symbol, small blue guy, is our ECS server. ECS you can consider a virtual server. When you log into the server, it could looks just like a Linux and Windows, right? You can also deploy some MySQL or SQL server in this ECS server, and then you can also deploy your application software like some web server, Apache, or those kind of web server into the same ECS server. And at the top of this layer inside the ECS, you can run your website applications to provide the final service to the end users. So it's, maybe we shouldn't say it's an architect, but it's very similar like what you will how you will deploy your service in a physical server, right? It's similar, very similar. But they do have some disadvantage if you are using the all-in-one infrastructure, because you have all your applications and data laying in the same server, which bring many security problems. So the suggestion to the all-in-one infrastructure is that we usually will suggest our customer to separate the application with the data. For example, every web server, I believe they will leverage some database service. So our RDS database service is Alibaba's very popular database service. It's a regional database service. You can select your preferred instance like MySQL or SQL Server, those kind of very popular DB service, and your RDS instance. Then after the proper configuration, you can let your ECS to talk to RDS. But you can secure the communication line and also even whitelist the RDS to give only some limited access grantage privilege to the ECS, which will secure your data much more than the all-in-one structure. The third architecture we'll commonly see in the cloud platform, we call them the elastic service with a cluster, which means when your business is begin to grow big and bigger, maybe one ECS cannot serve the purpose anymore. You need more than one ECS, even 10 or even hundreds. We can put them in a cluster, but how can we maintain a similar user experience to the end user when they visit the web service? They shouldn't be aware that we have a different service lane behind to provide the service, right? So that's how and why the SLB will jump in. The service load balancer. It's also a software product in the Alibaba Cloud product portfolio. So SLB will standing there, and the gateway, it will begin to accept the request and the user, but it will use some scheduling rules to distribute this kind of incoming requests to different ECS servers in the cluster, so that the server users can feel a very good user experience about their requests were being handled. At the same time, when the business began to grooming, we can use the auto-scaling mechanism to automatically add more ECS or take some ECS server out when the peak time is gone. So Remember, this Elasticsearch is a very popular infrastructure in the cloud platform, and also it is a very, very important infrastructure for your business to gain the elastic service capability. Well, the last one is our recommended architecture that not only give you the elastic capability, but also we suggest you separate your dynamic data and your static data. What is the static data and the dynamic data? Because the OSS is one of our object storage service in Alibaba Cloud. It's just like the traditional storage service like NFS or SAN, right? So object storage is majorly suitable for the internet application, which means usually when you are running the online e-commerce business, for example, the only storage context or scenario is that you want to immediately store some user orders on the server side, right? Sometimes when the user finished ordering or they want to get some information back from the server, that's why the OSS is playing the role. Like, you don't need to access this data very, very often, but you do want to have a key and value, those kind of very structured objects, like the document, video, or the audio, those kind of file being stored and being searched very easily. So OSS is majorly used for your static data. But RDS, as we introduced previously, is for the structured data and for a more instant access from the server side. So together with the OSS and the RDS, you can give you a very good both choice about different business. If you want to run in a very real-time business, maybe you have to have some RDS. But for OSS, you want to run some e-commerce business, so you can have your orders or some other online assets to be stored very well and be searched very well. So all in all, with the growth of your cloud infrastructure, you can serve your business very well. But at the same time, you will face more and more security challenges. In the next session, we will introduce the current cybersecurity situation to you. See you then. Okay, so let's talk about the cybersecurity current situations. In this section, we will discuss about current network security situation, which means even the internet was so popular nowadays, but when you're running business on the internet, you are still facing a lot of challenge and even malicious attacks or some kind of frauding or fake requests. So it's really important for us to understand the situation, that we have the motivation to protect our online business. I have some historical, very famous attacks to showcase for you to know how dangerous it could be if someone really hack into the system and do something bad. So in year 2007, actually, this is happening in China. At that time, the internet is not so popular, but many universities or companies, they have their own private network. So this virus is actually attack the machines in a subnet or a private subnet environment. They are leveraging one of the vulnerability was found in the Windows operating system for a service which is running at the port 445. So the virus will scan all the opening port like the 445 and try to use some vulnerability to enter into your operating system. Then they begin to use a predefined dictionary, including some very popular user and password combination. They will begin to try your system privilege. Once they gain your administrator's privilege, they will begin to change all your executable files in your system to this very special symbol, like the panda holding some lights. And then they will begin to delete all your possible backup files you have. So at that time, the China users, computer users, they use a very popular backup software like the Ghost. They will back up their system image. So when something is happening, they can they can roll back about their system. But this virus is really dangerous because they will delete those files, and you will not be able to recover your previous operating system anymore. Then in year 2014, there's another very interesting virus happening. So we know SSL is a protocol we developed to protect the data which is going through or communicated through the public internet. It's a well-known protocol that if you apply the SSL together with the HTTP, you turn your website into a HTTPS website, right? But even with this very secure protocol, which is to ensure your security on the internet, itself has some vulnerability, which was found by some very experienced hackers, that they found that if they use some very special combination of the request, they can push your server-side memory to overloaded mode, which also can be, it's actually called a overstack kind of attack. It can, through the overstack mechanism, to push your normal data out of the memory. The client side begin to able to read your memory, like some user or password information which is still sitting in your memory and not have a chance to store into the backend storage. So it's really a serious security leak. So at that time, very companies, like the big companies, the data is that almost 90% of the companies around the world, they are using the HTTPS and using the OpenSSL protocol. So it's really a serious thing at that time. So when the time go to the year 2017, there's another newly developed virus. It's called the WannaCry. So it's a very latest virus. So I believe many people still remember that, right? When your server was really hacked by this kind of virus, two very bad things will happen. Firstly, they will encrypt all your sensitive data on your computer, like your video, audio, pictures, without the security key, which you don't have, right? You cannot recover your data. Then the second bad thing is the virus inventor, they will ask some big Bitcoin to recover your data, right? It's like a hijack, right? You have to pay this guy some money and a Bitcoin to recover your data. So the interesting part is that the WannaCry, which is happening in year 2017, and also the Panda virus is happening in 2007, they both leverage the port 445 on the Windows system. So you can see in the very long history of the IT industry, those kind of bad things that's happening again and again. That give us a really a warning and a heads up about we should really pay attention to our network situation. And this page shows the top 10 network security risks, which was actually collected. The information was collected by the OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. It's a public open community, and they collected those kind of information to show us that what kind of attacks is so popular that can be the top 10 popular attacks in a different year. And when you compare the list between the year 2013 and 2017, you can see some kind of things are a drop, and some kind of attack are going to the top. So which means the situation of the network security is keep changing, right? You need to keep update your system, to keep updating your security library to make sure you can face those kind of latest attacks and newly generated attacks. In Alibaba Cloud, we have those kind of capabilities to help you to protect your security business. This is a capability that we show in the year 2014. Is a kind of example that in that year we mitigate almost so much large amount of the data from the DDoS attacks. In the Alibaba Cloud in China, we protect almost 35% of the website, and like 200 million brute force attacks, and the data is really huge, right? Even in daily base, you can see there's a huge number of the illegal web requests or some brute force attacks we are trying to prevent, to help the customer to have a very clean and a very safe network security situation. So in the next session, we will discuss about how to evaluate your security risk on cloud and understand what is shared responsibilities in Alibaba Cloud. Okay, let's talk about the security risk evaluation and shared responsibility. In this section, you will have a basic understanding about how we can evaluate a risk situation based on the challenge you are facing on the internet, and also under the cloud platform context, what kind of shared responsibility model we will provide to have a better understanding about what part the cloud provider will take responsibility to protect, and what part the business runner and our customers, they need to think about on their level how to protect the different security layers. This is a very simple formula to talk about how can we define a risk, no matter it's a security risk or the financial risk or the even personal risk. So it's a simple formula. The possibility multiply the consequence we define on the risk, which means sometimes if the consequence is big, but if the possibility is small, you don't think it's a big risk. Just like an example about we take flight frequently. If you are a businessman, right? Taking flight, if the flight actually dropped or fall down from the sky, it's a really huge consequence. Sometimes you don't even want to afford. But the possibility of that thing to happen is really rare, right? It's a very, very little possibility. So when the two factors combine together, we think, okay, taking flight is not too much risk, right? So this very simple formula gives you understanding about when we evaluate risk, we need to think about the consequence, but we still also want to talk about the possibility. With the vertical level, you can see we have the cloud platform, ISV, and end user. So both of the role will play their different roles in the security causes. Each of them, if they don't do something very professional, they will make some security risk. Cloud platform, like any cloud service provider, they need to make sure their overall system solution is secured, which means we cannot only provide one product, another product. It needs to be a overall solution. Also, this will have some strong capabilities, technical capabilities, which means in the Alibaba Cloud, for example, we have Double 11 Spring Shopping Festival every year. So we use those kind of chance to train our system every year. So we have a very strong technical team to build those kind of capabilities and make us almost the top one cloud provider in China market. And also for the console and API and even some tools, we should make it very simple and easy to use. If you design those kind of user interface very complex, sometimes people don't want to use it. Sometimes even they will begin to misconfigure it, which will bring some risk costs. On the cloud platform, we have some third-party server vendors, software vendors, right? They need to formalize their developer cycle, testing cycle, and deployment and operation process. Without those kind of normalization, it's very easy to bring some bugs or some leaks into their software. And the end user, we are human, right? We make mistakes. Some people don't have the right security sense, and they don't know when and how to protect their treasured and valuable data and all data assets. And also, even some company, they emphasize their security procedure, but not everyone is following it very clearly. So all those possible factors will bring us some risks about your business. Now let's look at this risk control and the risk evaluation from another level. It's a vertical level. So at the very top, we have the physical environment security, which means for the hardware, the facility, make sure the cloud providers will make sure the temperature and the humidity control, even the big wind, thunder, those kind of naturally damage right from the outside. Also, above the physical, there are network communication security. We need to figure about how can we isolate the different zones, set up enough security guard on the border, and make sure the access control is clearly defined through the different zones. And also we have a device and a computing security, which means regarding to the computing node, we need to make sure each node is really secured and locked, and the access control to this individual node is well configured, and we have the different account defined for the different privilege. And everything we are operating on this device, we should have a clear log and even the auditing to make sure we can go back and trace back. The last one is the data and the application security, right? So this part, you need to think about how can I make sure my data is not manipulated, which is not changed by some bad guy. And also the common best practice is to make sure your data is encrypted. You have your own key to make sure no one can actually see the data without those keys. So this page gives you an overview about layer by layer, in which layer, what kind of risk control we can do and what kind of focus we should have on. And then we want to share you the security model in Alibaba Cloud. Which part, the Alibaba Cloud, is Alibaba Cloud's responsibility to take care is actually the infrastructure part. It's including the physical layers. As I said, the facility, right? The power, the cooling system, right? Those kind of stuff. And also with the hypervisor, we have the abstracted source to be used by the upper level applications. And those are also maintained and in charge by Alibaba Cloud, like your virtual disk, right? Your virtual server stability or availability, those kind of features. But which part should the customer take care of? It's all your business data, like what's inside your ECS, right? We have the ECS. We make sure the ECS is very stable and reliable, but what kind of software you install, what kind of OS you are using, and what kind of application you are installing in your ECS, what kind of vulnerabilities they are having, and do I need to patch them? Do I have to store some sensitive data on the OSS or RDS? Should I open the security features? So those are the considered factors a customer needs to think about. But no matter which one is, Alibaba Cloud will have a from the bottom to the top solution to help you to solve every layer's security concerns. Now let's talk about the security focus on different infrastructure model. At the very beginning, we talk about the 4 common recommended infrastructure in a cloud environment. So in this section, we will discuss one by one about the infrastructure model and what kind of security focus you need to put on them. For the all-in-one infrastructure, this is the most simple one and most common used infrastructure in the cloud platform. So for this kind of infrastructure, you need to focus on your login security, like what kind of password policy I need to put, and for the account authentication, and for the different user, different privilege, and different role management. Also, you need to consider about what kind of operating system I want to use, like Windows or Linux or some others. Is this server itself, the operating system itself, is safe enough? Are they well patched? Are they most up to date? Any known or unknown vulnerabilities I need to consider? Also, on the server, you definitely will install some web server or application to run your business. Is this application secure enough? Do they have vulnerabilities? Are they using some common open source software or some very popular component which was so popular that they were rapidly developed and then they may have some security holes in the software? And also in this architecture or infrastructure, you need to think about I have the database inside the server. Should I encrypt them? And should I back up them to make sure when the server is down, my data still can be reached and can be recovered, right? And also, when you put this server in the internet, it definitely will still under the network attacks. This will give you some consideration about should I install a firewall or leverage some common outside for firewall to help me to protect my business. For the separate application and data infrastructure, right, including all the ones we mentioned before, now we have more security factors you need to consider, because between the ECS and the RDS, now you have the data transmission, right? How can I secure the data during the transmission? They won't be probed or be grabbed by some other dangerous guy. So this is one factor. Another one is about, is my network itself secure enough? Can anyone then be in between to grab my data, right? And also you can use some black and white listing to grant only the most minimum privilege to the access to your sensitive data. And also for the database, even it's a standalone database, you still need to consider the backup and the disaster recovery plan. So when something is bad is happening, you can still have your data available. For the Elastic service with the cluster, because you have more than one server, right? Maybe you don't want the server to know each other, right? They are serving a different functionality, right? You want to have a server isolation policy. And also you need to consider about from the outside, should I give the different server the same access control, or should I give them the different ones? And now we have the SLB. The communication between the SLB to the ECS is another new concern you need to consider. Should I give the SLB some certificate like the HTTPS setup, right, to make sure even the communication between the SLB and the servers, they are fully secured.
Now your business is growing. You want to use OSS and RDS to separately store your static and dynamic data. For OSS, the security concern is more about how to keep the data secure in OSS and make sure not authorized user should not be able to access them. But for RDS, you need to think about how to do backup regularly to keep your data safe. And also, if some disaster were happening, could I recover my data and application and quickly and possible? So all in all, with the growth of the products you use in cloud, with more and more complex architecture you use, there are more secure aspects you need to consider. In the next session, we will give you an overview of Alibaba Cloud security products, which can give you a completed security solution to protect your data and your application on Alibaba Cloud.
So in this last section, let's have a very brief overview about what kind of Alibaba Cloud security products we are providing and what kind of their highlight features.
From this page, you can see the current Alibaba Cloud security products portfolio on the right side. At the bottom, 3 products are listed for data security protection. In the middle, we have WAF, anti-DDoS, and threat detection service to protect your application, network, even host security. The very up layer is special industry services we provided for content security, vulnerability discovery, and the gaming industry business protection. We also provide security emergency response service to help our customer to deal with urgent security issues or attacks.
Starting from the data security, it's not a specific security product in Alibaba Cloud, but in each of very popular product in the Alibaba Cloud, we have very important and embedded features to address the security concerns. For example, from the data backup and the restore aspect, we have every cloud disk be able to be snapshot. So every snapshot, when you taken, you have the capability to keep all those immediate data at that time, and then you can restore that status in the future when something is happening. For RDS, definitely we have backup and disaster recovery. And most of the data, every data in the Apsara infrastructure, we have the multi-copies. And you can also design your remote backup policy from the OSS to OSS or from RDS to RDS. Talking about the data encryption, we have OSS encryption, we have RDS encryption. All these features are embedded in the product configuration. You can just use one click to open it or disable it. And we also have the hardware secured machine service. It's a kind of a physical server renting service. You can rent some very secure machines, physical servers, to help you to do the encryption calculating, and also give you a very good isolation from the other cloud servers. And KMS is a key management service. Alibaba Cloud uses KMS to provide you the key management, and you will gain some major key. You can use that key to generate your data key to do more encryption service for yourself. In the section of the secure data transmission, we have the well-known SSL certification service. You can buy the SSL certificate from Alibaba Cloud directly and push it to the different level of the network product in Alibaba Cloud. So all those data transaction can have the secured encrypted data. And the last one, the HTTP DNS. The scenario we usually use HTTP DNS is for the mobile. DNS is actually as a service, and a very common service. It's really easy to be attacked. When the DNS server is down, so there's no business can be run because there's no URL can be reached. But when the HTTP DNS give you the option and the possibility that you can bypass the normal DNS server and turn the normal DNS protocol into the HTTP based on the HTTP protocol, which means you don't need to visit the normal DNS server anymore, and you can just use the HTTP to visit some servers running on the Alibaba Cloud. Now in our China market mobile phone, if you are in the mobile phone, you have the e-commerce application like Tmall or Taobao. So those applications will use HTTP DNS to secure your DNS access. From the data security, let's go to the host security. Host security, our major product to serve this purpose is called the ServerGuard. ServerGuard is a very lightweight agent. You can install them into your ECS server. It can not only serve the ECS server, but also for any server can be reached through the internet. You can install this ServerGuard agent that they can help you to update your system vulnerabilities, also to scan for any Trojan virus, and to help you to protect from any brute force login, and also some remote untrusted login. Even the web shell detect. Web shell is someone, maybe they can upload some dangerous script that they can execute from the client side. Then they can gain your system privilege. It's very dangerous, but ServerGuard can protect them very well. And WAF is called the Web Application Firewall. We use this product to provide the application level security protection. Actually, before we release the WAF product to the public, we have run this WAF inside of Alibaba Corporation for almost 10 years, right, to protect our own business. So we are very experienced, and we have been trained very well for our security model to find the potential attacks. Also, and we mentioned before, all the top 10 threats, the OWASP mentioned in every year, the WAF will have their own solution to defend. Also, the Gartner report shows that most of the companies who want to buy WAF is because they want to have the PCI compliance. So WAF is really important and a very killer app in our Alibaba Cloud security product portfolio. VPC is so theoretically saying it's not a particularly security product, but we want to list it here is that it's really important for VPC to play a role to isolate your different network, to isolate your different assets in the cloud, right? For anyone who is running business in the cloud, you should know the virtual private cloud. So based on this VPC product, that you can gain some secure isolation, right? You can define your own subnet together with some security group and the virtual switch configuration. You can gain some similar functionality like a real firewall. The anti-DDoS, another very key product for our security protection. The basic is really free, and you can have it automatically after you have the after you deploy your first ECS server or first IDS instance. But for Pro, it will not have any limitation to the up limit of your business, the bandwidth which is coming into your web server, right? For Basic, we do have a limitation for that, but for Pro, it's not only don't have the bandwidth protection limitation, but also it can provide not only the servers in the cloud, but also any server on the internet. It can have a domain and can be found from the internet. Not only for the security protection, we will recommend that use some monitoring and control product to help you to find some different and very dangerous situation very quickly. So Cloud Monitor is very free, easy to use, powerful monitoring service, right? You can define your own dashboard, define your own factors and which product you should be monitoring, and you can design the alerts based on the different numbers you are curious about. So it can be those messages can be sent through email and some message. So cloud monitoring is a really recommended service you should use to monitor your whole cloud business. For monitoring and control, RAM is another one you should not miss, right? RAM is actually short for the resource and access management. Using RAM, you can define users, groups, different roles, and give them the different authentication and policy. And even you can use RAM to do some temporary credentials for some very large users, like the mobile users. You want to grant them some temporary privilege to visit some data. Then after they get the data, you can just draw back and take back the privilege. And also we have some best practice for RAM, right? One of the rule of thumb is called the least privilege policy, right? You shouldn't give them people too many privilege before they even have a chance to use them, right? Only give them a privilege it's quite enough for their current task. Also, you can say we have the MFA, the multi-factor authentication support, and some practice like you should rotate your security credentials regularly to make sure even someone's get your credential, but it can be only used for a very short time, then it will be switched to another one. This is to give us understanding about where the IT infrastructure is coming from, why they changed to the way it is now, and the current network security is not secure, and we should have our own protection methods and solutions to protect our own business. When you evaluate your risk, which about the business you put on the internet, we have some formulas, we have some models to help you to evaluate it. And also we give you an overview about the shared responsibilities in the Alibaba Cloud platform. What you need to care about and what Alibaba Cloud will help you to take care of. In different infrastructure model, we have the 4 common model, and in which model we give you a clear list about which kind of security focus you need to pay attention to. And at the last of this course, we review the major security product line, and each product they have some highlight features you should know. And this give you a brief view about Alibaba Cloud security product. Hope you enjoy this course. Okay, since we already go through the Alibaba Cloud security product line, now let's go to the console and also have a very quick go through about all the products we now provided in the Alibaba Cloud for the security aspect. Here from the base service, you see all the general cloud computing products, and also we have the big data part, right? Then there's a category specific for the security. So here you will see all the security products we can offer now. The first one is anti-DDoS service. When you click this, you will see there are still many some regions here you need to think about which one I want to protect, and in a different tag you can see we can list the one you want to protect and also want to put here in this tab. For the anti-DDoS service, we mentioned in the previous slide there are basic and pro difference. So basically provided actually for free, and for the anti-DDoS Pro, if you already bought some instance, you can click here to purchase some instance. So be carefully when you go to this purchase tag. You will see you need to choose either you want to buy some anti-DDoS instance which is inside China, also you want to buy the ISP which is actually outside of China. The price could be different, right? So if you buy the instance, you can go to the instance list and see the difference from the because I bought the international instance, so the instance information will be shown here. So later on you will be able to configure the different configuration for the anti-DDoS service. So we will use another demo session to introduce the anti-DDoS service. For the web application firewall, when you go to web application firewall, you see the same difference here, the mainline China or international. You still need to choose where my WAF instance want to be protected. So I bought one instance from the international area, then I can add the domain to be protected. And this is WAF. So also you can go to the different tag to see the overview of the current different aspects of the incoming and outcoming request or attacks. So the report part is majorly about any any dangerous attacks, some other kind of bad behaviors happening or catched in the WAF. This one we call the server guard. The server guard is definitely something you can install and the agent in your ECS server, and it can provide you the different functionalities and show the instance here. You can add the whitelist also to server guard. Well, again, we will have another very detailed session to discuss about how to use the server guard to protect your server. And here is the SSL certificate. SSL certificate, and you maybe already know, it can be used to encrypt your internet connection between the client and server. It can be used as we call it a SSL certificate because it can give you the capability to turn your normal HTTP website and into a secured website, which means you can buy some SSL certificate here based on your different. You can choose which region is maybe near to you, and after you bought some SSL certificate, you can always use it to your web server, or even push it to your SRB, or push it to the to your anti-DDoS or WAF, those kind of protection technology which is standing actually in front of your web server, so that you can make every connection, every milestone from the incoming traffic to your web server. Each milestone, each connection path should be fully secured, protected. And the mobile security is a very interesting one. With the mobile security, there's a demo actually embedded with your user account, which means very obvious and direct. You can see you can just upload some application you design and coded for your business, right? You can just upload the I think the source code, then the system, I mean the mobile security system, will actually begin to search and begin to scan your source code and tell you what kind of problems it already found, right? From this demo, you can see they definitely scan some risks, vulnerabilities. Some are high, some are moderate, some are low. You can make your own decision to change it, or to modify it, fix it, right? The behind name means that we can even use this functionality to automatically fix your application and code level vulnerabilities. And there are some APIs you can use to call to maybe to design to test some of your local applications. From this kind of go through process, you can see we have many security products already provided here, and from the host security, data security, and application security and network security, it almost covers all of your IT infrastructure in the cloud. So remember, when you want to have your cloud infrastructure fully and secure, protected, go to the security category and try to find the most proper product for yourself. Thanks for watching.